Today on The Joy of Editing, it's TK Friday, and today I'll be editing an image of a great blue heron. This will be a full edit. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with yours truly, Dave Kelly. Thank you for joining me on yet another TK Friday. Today it's a great blue heron. Today's image comes to us by Steve Baggett. Thank you, Steve, for this beautiful image. I've provided Dropbox links for the image as well as the PDF notes, which will give you my step-by-step editing process. You'll find those links in the description below this video. You have to click on more or show more to open up that description. And by the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, you can save 15% off the TK9 plugin for Photoshop along with training videos. Use my promo code DK15. That gets you 15% off of everything. Not only are you saving money, but you're supporting the joy of editing with Dave Kelly when you use that promo code DK15. So thank you all for using my promo code. I really appreciate it. All right, then, let's get started. I'm starting out in Lightroom. Now, I'm using a linear profile for Steve's camera. His camera is a Canon 7D Mark II. I always like to use that linear profile. It gives me a nice, pretty flat image to start out with because I like to do all my editing, most of it, the bulk of it, right inside of Photoshop with the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. So I'm doing very minimal editing here. So I click on Auto, and then I'll touch up my whites and blacks just to make sure I'm not clipping. So if you look at the histogram, you can see I'm not clipping anywhere here. And then I always use lens corrections, remove chromatic aberrations. I check that on and check on enable profile corrections. And then detail, I just added a little bit of sharpening. Now, this is a beautiful image. I wish there was a little more space to the left, and I'm sure Steve does as well. But now that we have Photoshop Beta, Generative Fill, which will soon be coming, hopefully, to the regular Photoshop 2023, hopefully in the near future, I sent this into Photoshop Beta and added some space to the left and a little bit on the bottom here. So now it looks like this. It's framed up nicely. Thanks to Generative Fill, we have some space for the bird to fly into the scene. Your image download will look just like this. And then I would right-click on the image here in Lightroom and go to Edit in Photoshop 2023, but I'm already there. And here we are in Photoshop with the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, and we're ready to get going. If you're new to TK9, you may want to give this edit a try. This one is not going to be too complicated. This will be a little shorter video today. Starting out at step 1, we'll be setting ourselves up for success. And what I mean by that is, for this image, we have a subject and we have a background. I'll save the subject out as a channel, the background out as a channel, as well as a Mids 3 mask as a channel. I'll start out by doing the Midtones 3 mask as a channel. So we'll click on this luminosity mask button, click on Midtones 3. And the reason I do this, I'll be doing a balance and contrast adjustment. And Midtones 3 protects the darkest shadows and the lightest highlights from clipping, which is very important. We don't want any clipping there, especially in the highlights. It's okay to have a little bit of clipping in the shadows, but not the highlights. And now we're going to save that as a channel. And you're going to come right here on the multi-mask panel. See where it says Save? Click on that, and we're going to give this a name. I'm just going to call it Mids 3 for Midtones 3, and click OK. And now we can see there it is as a channel right there. Now we don't need this anymore, so I can go ahead and X out of here. Now I just need to save the subject out as a channel and the background, and TK9 makes that really easy. I'm so thankful for this new feature. If you're on a Mac, hold down your Command key. If you're on a PC, hold down your Control key and click on this button right here for subject. When you do, it saves out the subject as a channel right there in just one click. Very simple. And now for the background, all you need to do, hold Command or Control down again and double click subject. And now you'll notice we have a background and it's already named for us. Pretty cool. Now you'll notice that I have a selection here. And I believe I had a comment last week. Dave Tillett said, hey, you could speed this up if you already have a selection here. And he's right. I do have a selection. So The next thing I want to do is add a color grading tool. If I come up here on the multi-mask panel and click on this color grading tool button, because I'll be using that for balance and contrast and color grading the image, if I click this, you'll notice that a background mask has been added to this color grading layer. Now, if you click this double arrow button, you can always see what your mask looks like. And the white area is the area, which is the background that is selected in this mask. Now, click this button again, you'll go back to your image. So that's a really nice button. If you ever want to see what a mask looks like, just click this button and click it again to go back to the image. And now we're ready for the mask calculator. Now, don't be afraid of the mask calculator. It's very easy to use and very intuitive here with the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. So what I want you to do is the mask calculator is right here in the combo panel. On the CX panel, you'll find it right here. Now, I use my CX panel for action, so I always leave this open here. So I'll be using the combo panel today, but you can work off either panel. It doesn't really matter. Now, what I want to do for the mask calculator, if you click it, it's going to open up the mask calculator. But after you make a calculation, it'll shut back down. But if you command or control click it, it will stay open for you until you shut it by clicking this X. This mask is a mask of the background. So what I want to do is get midtones 3, and I need to intersect it with the mask on the color grading tool. Click on midtones 3 or mids 3 and click this X. And when you do, it'll intersect midtones 3 with the mask on the color grading tool there. Now, if we want to see it right now, my actions are in the way, so I'm going to click this X. And if we click the double arrow so we can see the mask, you can see that there's my midtones 3 that was intersected onto the background. Pretty cool, right? Now we'll click this button again and we can see the image. So now we're going to do some balance and contrast on the background, but I'm not going to add contrast. I'll be removing contrast. And here's how I do it. And I also want to lighten up the background. I'll start by adjusting the shadows. So I'll click on the shadows button, and instead of going to the left, I'll go to the right to lighten the shadows. So I'll start to move this slider to the right, which will actually reduce the shadow contrast in the image. See how my shadows have gotten a lot lighter? So not only can you darken shadows, you can lighten shadows by going to the right. And now we're going to click on midtones. And I do want to also lighten up those midtones to somewhere right about here. And now we're going to go to highlights. And on the highlights, I want to pull my highlights back to somewhere right about here. What I'm trying to achieve here is building contrast between the subject and the background. In other words, the background will be light, the subject will be darker, and that will create the contrast I'm looking for. Next, we're going to work on the subject. So what I need is another color grading tool. Now, right now, I don't have a selection. So what we need to do is click this plus, and that'll add a color grading tool right here. Now we're going to jump to the mask calculator. Now, as you can see, I have mids 3 selected. I want to apply that to the color grading tool as a mask. So I'll click the apply button. And now what we need to do is choose the subject, because now we're working on the subject. So click on the subject, and now we want to intersect the subject with the midtones 3 mask on the color grading tool there. So click the X, and now we can see if I click this double arrow icon, now we can see there's our midtones 3 on the Great Blue Heron. Doesn't that look cool? That's a piece of art in itself right there. That looks really neat. All right, so let me click this button again, and now we can make some color grading adjustments. Now, we don't need the mask calculator right now, so I can just click the X to X out of it, and now I have my combo panel back. And now I'm going to open up my actions on the CX panel by clicking the TK button, just so I'll be ready for an action, because I know I will be using an action or two. I'm going to start with shadows, so we'll click on the shadow button. Now I'm going to use this picker tool right here, because what I want to do is I want to sample the color off of the wing of the Great Blue Heron. So what we'll do is get the color picker tool, and we're going to select like a blue in here, somewhere like right around here, and we're going to click OK. And you can see there's that color grade right there. And now I want to darken down the shadows, so I'm going to drag this to the left to like a -30. And I got to -30 by experimentation. So here's the before and here's the after. But that little bit of color grading adds a little bit of that same blue color that I sampled off the wing, makes it a little stronger. And if you want it even stronger yet, you can drag it more down this way if you want that to be more blue. And it's your artistic vision. Whatever you want, you can play with it and do with it as you please. And next I'll go to midtone, so I'll click on the midtone button, and I'm going to grab the color picker tool again and sample some of this color on the wing, some of these warm tones in here, like right around here. Click OK, and there's that color grade right there. And now we'll lighten the midtones up a bit. So I'm going to come over to like right here, plus 21. And now we can take a look. Here's the before and here is the after, before and after. So it brings out some of that warmth there. And if that's too light, maybe I'll bring that back just a little wee bit, maybe around here. And now let's go to highlights. And I'm going to open up the highlights to, let's try here. I think that's good. So now here's the overall. Here's the before and here is the after. So I really like the way this bird is just popping off the image. I think it looks really nice. And we have some nice contrast between the background and the subject itself. Already it looks great. We can almost be done right here, but no, I can't stop here. No way. I got to keep going. So the next thing I want to do is an action. So we're going to try the soft pop action. So let's click on soft pop, and that adds some nice detail, some pop in the color and the details, but I do not like it on the background, so we could take care of that very easily. And all we need to do is go back to the trusty mask calculator, click on that button. I only want to apply soft pop to the subject, so click on subject, and now I'll just apply it to the soft pop layer. So click this apply button, and now check it out. It's only on the subject. Here's the before, and here's the after. Now that's really looking good. The next thing I want to do is close off the top of the image and the bottom of the image. And what I mean by that is just to darken it a little bit. And to do that, right now my color grading tool is in the way, so click the X to get out of it. Nothing will change down on your color grading layers. And now we can see our multi-mask panel. On the multi-mask panel, I'm going to click this button to get a curves adjustment layer. I'll click this button on the combo panel to give me a black mask. That hides whatever is happening on this curves adjustment layer, which right now is nothing. But now when I click multiply, this puts it into a multiply blend mode for darkening. I'm just using curves so I can use it to get the multiply blend mode. That's all I'm using it for. I could have used the levels or brightness contrast or hue saturation because again, I'm just using it to get a blend mode. And now I need to get a gradient tool, so click on the gradient tool. Now make sure you have it set up for linear gradient. That's the first button here. You can click this drop down, and I'm under basics and I'm using this last one right here, black to white. And you'll notice we have gradient here, and this is a drop down. If you click it, there's a classic gradient and the new live gradient. I'm using the new live gradient because you can see exactly what's happening. I'm going to click right here, left click with my mouse and start to drag down and see that live gradient. If you hold your shift key down, you can constrain this to these angles here. I want mine to go straight. The nice thing is you can just pull this down and actually see where it's going to. And I want mine to come to right about here. We can fine tune further, see the diamond. You can move this up and down and you can see how it graduates. You see that really makes it nice to fine tune, just like this. So you can make some adjustments here, but I think that looks really good right there. Right now we can see that line there. And if I click on the actual curves icon, that'll go away. So we can see here's the before and here is the after. Now I think that's too strong, so we can take this opacity and we can pull this back. And I took mine back to like right around like 64, 65, somewhere right around here. Here is the before and here's the after. I just want that slight darkening. Now you can always come back and click on the mask and then you could see the line here again, and then you can readjust this if you need to. So I think like right about there looks really good. And again, if you don't want to see the line, click on the curves icon. And again, here's our before and here's our after. So that's closing off the top. Now we'll work on the bottom. Just like before, we can use a curves adjustment layer or any of these adjustments, okay? Let's use levels, because again, we're not going to use the levels. We're just putting a levels down here. We're going to put a black mask on it. Put it in a multiply blend mode by clicking this button right here. The gradient tool is still the active tool. And now from the bottom, we're just going to click, say somewhere right around here, and we're going to pull up. I'm going to make sure this is looking nice and straight down here. And again, you can hold your shift key down to constrain that. But I think I'm going to angle it just slightly to the left so that line for my eye looks nice and straight and right around there. And we could play, again, here we can do some fine tuning in here, somewhere right around there. Let's click on the levels icon. And now we can see here's the before and here's the after. Now it's too strong, so I'm going to take this opacity and pull it back. And I took mine back to somewhere right around here, like a 45. So here is the before and here is after, but that closes off the bottom. And now you can see if I shut both of these layers off, this is without closing it off and this is with closing it off. But I think that really helps. And now on to the next step. Next, I want to work on the color a little bit. I want to bring up some of the weaker saturated colors. So what we'll do is click on the Saturation Vibrance Mask button right here. And I'm going to make sure I have my histogram open. And what I want to do is go to Vibrance 1. This will help me to find the weaker colors. And what I'm trying to do is start to drag the edge of this over to the left. So there's a Vibrance 1. Here's a Vibrance 2. See how it's moving over? Here's Vibrance 3. And here is Vibrance 4. And I think I'll stop here at Vibrance 4, but that is targeting the weaker saturated colors. So I can close this histogram now, and I'll output this to a hue saturation adjustment layer. Now you'll notice right now this is on master, and if you click this drop down, it breaks it down into all these different colors: reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues, and magentas. I'll start out with the overall master, and all I'm doing here is just bringing this to the right just a little bit. And again, it's just targeting the weaker colors. So I'm bringing this up to like a +5. That's it there. And now I'll click on the drop down and I'll go to red, click on reds. And what I'll do with the reds is try to see what happens if I start to drag this to the right. See where the reds are getting targeted there? And I took my reds over to like a +25, and let's go back to the drop down. Now we're going to go to yellows, and let's play with the yellows. Let's give the yellows a little bit more. See in the background there, I think this is going to be good somewhere right around here, like a 20. And now we can look at the greens. I don't think we're going to have much green in here. Yeah, not much green, so I'll just double click this. Now we're going to go to cyans, and I don't think, yeah, there's not a whole lot of cyan in here, so I'll just double click this. And now we're going to go to blues. We should have some blues in here. So let me bring the blues up, yeah, in the water there. So I'm going to take the blues up a little bit to like I think around a +7. I don't want to go overboard here. I just want to, again, pull up some of the weaker colors. And back to the drop down, let's check out magentas. I don't think we'll have much in the way of magenta here. Yeah, there's a little bit of magenta in there. I might just pull up that magenta, just a tiny little bit. I didn't add magenta on my original edit, but I think I will add a little bit of magenta in there. Now let's take a look. Here is the before. This is going to be very subtle. Here's the before. And here is the after. I hope you can see that. You may or may not be able to see it, but believe me, there is a change there for the better. This is the before and this is the after, but it's a fine tuning of color. We're almost done. I think I want to do an overall global balance and contrast. Now to do that, I'm going to come up here and click on the luminosity mask button and click on midtones 3. Now you may ask yourself, Dave, why didn't you just use the one that was saved in your channels? Well, because I've edited the image and this updated midtones 3 will be a little different than the original midtones 3. Now I need to output this to a color grading tool, so we'll click this button right here. And now here's our color grading tool with the mids 3 mask on it. So let's start out with shadows. So I'll click on the shadow button. I'll slightly darken up the shadows to somewhere right about here. And now let's go to midtones. I just want to open up the midtones to like right here. There's our midtones. And now let's open up the highlights a little bit to right around here. So here is the before and here is the after. So a nice global balance and contrast adjustment. And now let's try vignette. I always like to try vignette. I'm just going to do a basic vignette. So click the vignette action. and I always take the radius just the way it is. Click OK. It defaults at a 30. Now here is the before and here's the after. I do want to protect the shadows a little bit, so we're going to use the new blend diff on the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. So click the X. Let's click the layer blend diff button, or the edit blend diff as it's really called. I call it layer blend diff because you can adjust it on the layer. All I'll do here is click this button right here for No Darks 1. Like watch over in this area right here, you'll see it when I click No Darks 1. See how it just protects those little dark areas over in there from not blocking up. So here is the before the vignette and here's the after. And I think I'll increase this vignette. Let's drag the opacity slider to the right, and I'm going to go to like right there, 50. So here is the before and here's the after. Now, I really love this image. There's a couple things I'd like to fix, like see like right here. I don't think I need this light area. My eye wants to go here. I'm going to use the new Photoshop remove tool for that. And to do that, we're going to click this button right here, which gives us a blank pixel layer, and grab the new remove tool, which is right here. And then I always make sure I have sample all layers checked on and remove after each stroke. And all I want to do is like paint over this like this, and it does a really good job of just cleaning that up. Maybe this little area right here. And then I just look around the edges like this, like up into here, just, you know, clean things up. There's a little light area over here, so I'm just going to go like that, okay? And this little light area down here, I'm just going to paint over that. I'm just looking for little areas that may help with a little bit of a touch-up like that, and maybe right here. And this right here, I think we can get rid of this. I don't think I need that one in there. Something like that. And I think I'll go right down here at the bottom. I think that looks good. Now let's take a look at the before and after. This eyeball obviously will shut this layer off and turn it back on, but I forget about this button here. And I believe every time you turn a layer on or off, that's added to your history state. But if you use this button right here, you can see before and after on a layer by clicking this before and after, but I don't believe this adds to a history state. And another thing you can do, if you want to see what's happening on this layer by itself, if you hold your Command or Control key down and click on this eye button, you can isolate that layer and see what it's doing. And then to go back and see all the layers that you originally had turned on, Command or Control, click that eye button again, and now you can see all the layers that were turned on before. So that's pretty cool. And this button is new to TK9, so I'll have to remember to start using this. Okay, now let's take a look at the overall before and after. So let's click the before after button. This is new to TK9 as well. Here's the overall before. So we started out here, and now we end up here. And I'm really happy with these results. And this was not a hard edit, so I hope you give this one a try, especially if you're new to TK9. It's a good way of getting your feet wet and discovering the power of TK9. Well, there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to a close. Hey, if you enjoyed today's full edit tutorial, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon, and then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!